You booked it, episode 149. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Every episode is a masterclass on how to move your career forward. And if you want even more, head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the email community where we dig deep into what you can be doing right now to help book that next gig. And now, let's do this. Alrighty, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Acro Mel. Are you ready for this, Mel?
Yes, I am.
Mel was born and raised in Canada and has trained extensively in aerial acrobatics, partner acrobatics, pole dance, yoga, dance, gymnastics, and theater. She began performing at a very young age and has attended various performing arts and circus schools, training and performing worldwide. In 2016, Mel earned her MBA in the UK and moved back to the Middle East, where she is now primarily based. She has taught for royalty and celebrities and is now predominantly focused on building and growing an acrobatic community within the region. As an instructor, Mel aims to create a comfortable and engaging environment that allows students to learn about movement and their bodies in a healthy and positive way. Mel, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
Okay, I am Canadian, as you said, and although I currently live in Asia, so right now I'm based in Saudi Arabia, and I do travel quite a bit, I would describe myself as a circus artist, specializing in aerial, and I mostly perform and teach a variety of aerial disciplines. So aerial, I would say, would be my primary discipline.
Yeah, very cool. And I saw, obviously, in your bio, there are a lot of different aerial apparatus and things that you use. Is there one apparatus that you prefer, or do you just like everything?
I actually love everything. So I majored in aerial rope or corps de lis in circus school. And I do rope, silks, hoop, and trapeze. My favorite discipline is actually duo trapeze. And I did have a partner that I worked with for a year or so in Qatar. And I think that's the one actually that I love the most. I miss the most because I haven't been able to do it in the last couple of years.
Yeah, very cool. Let's move on to this first section here. And Mel, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
Oh, there are so many. I love quotes that inspire people to be wholly themselves and inspire empowerment and freedom of movement. One of my favorite, I would say, is from Pablo Picasso. I'm always doing that which I cannot do in order that I may learn how to do it. And this is inspiring to me personally, as I love to push myself in my boundaries and feel growth and inspiration, feel uncomfortable, but motivated and excited and challenged. So I would say that one is my personal favorite.
Brilliant. I really like that quote. And let's move into this next section here. And Mel, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry, like you're having now, takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
One challenge while working full time as a professional aerialist was the constant travel without a home base. I love traveling. I love experiencing new cultures and food and locations, everything associated with traveling. But I found out that I'm really someone who works best on stability, having a home base, and having a known income. I absolutely don't regret the time that I took to travel and experience and work with amazing companies and people, but it was stressful. And not knowing if the decision I made to stay or continue traveling elsewhere would be too much on my plate or not enough income, or if I was giving up a better opportunity waiting to happen. Although I do still travel quite a bit, I, for the most part, do have a regular teaching schedule and a regular training schedule. And I am definitely a better person for it.
For sure. That is always the conundrum of our career, isn't it? Because we love everything, but there really is a lot of kind of instability. There's a lot of what
Mhm.
ifs all the time. You never really know when that next gig is happening. You can look at your next month and go, I don't have anything booked. And then by the end of the week, your next 3 months are booked flat. And it happens so quickly sometimes. And sometimes it is nice to have that schedule and then also finding out what works for you, because some people like to do that. Other people want to round out their schedule with training and teaching. That's what I love about this industry, is that it
Mhm.
allows you to really customize and create and curate your own experience through the industry and through life and your own artistry.
Absolutely. There was actually one week where I was working 16 hours a day for 7 days straight because I was working on various contracts that had different
Whoa.
timelines. And I actually had no time to even make food or to eat. So what I had done is I bought about 12 pizzas and kept them in the car that I was renting. And I would just eat on the way from one contract to the other, just leftover pizza. And by the end of that, I was so exhausted. But that was an amazing experience to go through, to know my boundaries and be able to push myself in that way and go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I really like about this career is that, hey, we can do anything for a short amount of time, right? Sometimes the timelines and the schedules,
Mhm.
just like what you just described, we get thrust into those and we've filled our plate up this like way too full in a way. But you go, this is not ideal. This is not sustainable. But you know what? I can do it for a few days for sure. And I'm going to be better for it. But then it's so great because you have that light at the end of the tunnel moment, that you get that massive sense of accomplishment when you do these things.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
This one's tough. I've always been a born performer. I was a gymnast and a dancer from a very young age. I loved competitions, not so much for the winning part, although that was definitely fun, but for the opportunity to be on stage and be bigger than myself. I also took a lot of
Mm.
acting as a kid and went to performing arts school where I did dance, acting, and directing for theater and film. And I loved every bit of it. I'd always loved circus, but I didn't really know how to get involved in it because there weren't a lot of studios or social media around like there are now. So I'm aging myself.
Right.
In 2011, I think I was performing as an actress and contortionist for a theater performance. And they brought in an aerialist, and I was mesmerized. And so when I had the chance to learn aerial later on, it was like a magical union. I had already been performing aerial, but when I attended circus school, that's when I really got my aerial legs. And when I perform in the air, it's a mix of the most amazing components of performing. It's directing your own performance, acting on stage, dancing to music, flying through the air with big stunts that make people gasp, and something otherworldly you feel when you're wrapped up in something beyond what is visible to the naked eye. And so, long story short, there was no one moment, but many moments.
Yeah, for sure. And the the progression through your career. I really like that you've just always been involved in the arts, because a lot of my personal experience with acrobats is working with acrobats that have been in the circus as a family business, right? And I'm sure you know many, many people that are like that.
Yes.
And they approach the craft, I find, a little bit differently versus, say, yourself, who trained in theater and singing and acting and dancing, and you just progressed up and then you just kept going. And you're like, aerial seems like the natural progression. Because you had all that foundation, I love watching performers like yourself that have had all of that foundation, because I think there's almost a little bit of there's a bit more of a performance element that comes out
Mm.
in your aerial, instead of it just being about the tricks and the just how crazy it really is to watch someone in the air doing whatever on an apparatus and the strength that it takes. But really, the performance behind it, that's what I love about people like you that have that really solid foundation.
Mm, absolutely. And actually, some of my most memorable performances that other people have told me about are ones that I put together really quickly and actually are not that skilled and very technical. They're just more
Mm,
about the performance. And people remember that because there's an emotional response to that.
yeah, For sure. I think that happens a lot in performance, especially when you're performing for muggles and the laymen, right? The people that they're not entertainers, because when entertainers perform for entertainers, there's this thing that happens where everyone tries to make it super difficult and super technical, but that's not always what reads. And if you're watching it, you can really appreciate it with a trained eye and be like, wow, that is amazing that they can do that technically and still
Mhm.
perform it and live it. But when you're just a normal person, I've done so many corporate events, and it's always the numbers that are big and fairly basic in their choreography, big repeats, but they
Mhm.
read in a room of 1,000 people, and they always are the ones that get the most response from the audience of just normal people.
Yeah.
Like you said, it wasn't necessarily something that had to be super technical. It was something that you could perform really well and bring
Mhm.
yourself to the number, and that's what made it good.
Yeah, the creativity and the passion.
Yeah, 100%. And let's piggyback on that real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
My most memorable booked it moment is actually not a performance booking. Performance bookings are amazing. I've been through a lot of auditions. I have even crashed into a judge's table for a dance audition, highly embarrassing. But I've been going through that a lot in my life. And I'd also been a gymnastics coach and a dance instructor. But when I got my first teaching job for teaching aerial, I was definitely nervous. I had just started out using Instagram and I was just starting to get noticed. And the studio was super excited to host Acro Mel. And I really didn't want to let them down. I have always had the creativity for choreography and dance, but aerial was a lot harder for me when I first started out learning to choreograph for that. And it was the first time I felt like I was known by people who didn't know me personally or through someone else. And because social media was taking off, if I flunked it, there could be serious consequences to my career. So luckily, I mean, everything went super smooth. I was teaching for a full week festival training for a variety of different age groups. And luckily, the circus humans are lovely humans. And so I was really so lucky to have such a good group, which included instructors from the studio who were just hungry to learn. And I finished super sore, but very pleased with myself and the effort that I put into that.
That's really great. I like that. And I also really like that you appreciated and foresaw that, hey, social media is really picking up. Lots at that time. I can imagine there was still a lot of organic searchability and discoverability versus it being much more pay to play. And it really does make a difference, especially then when your content and what people would share about you really properly made it to the large percentage of their networks. And that you saw that
Absolutely.
and you said, I have to perform, I have to do well. And then the fact, of course, the cherry on top that it all went well. Hey, that's fantastic.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Brilliant. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And it's kind of a weird time, right? We're amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Okay, starting on what I'm working now. So I am working on a few different projects. I have a pole studio in November 2019, which sadly closed in March due to COVID. But I'm hoping to reopen in January 2021, stronger than before. I'm also opening up a little aerial studio in January for both adults and kids. And in September 2021, I plan to open up a yoga teacher training program, as I am also an ERYT 500. Alongside this, I collaborate with studios in Saudi Arabia and in the Gulf region for showcases and teaching opportunities and opportunities to bring circus artists together. I have a lot of colleagues in the UAE that have done an amazing job with pole and really bringing together a strong pole community. And I would love to see this happen for aerial as well. For the entertainment industry, I've seen COVID hit a lot of studios and performers really hard. And I really have to believe that without the arts during this time, people will come back with a better appreciation and need for it, and that performing will expand even more so than pre-COVID, both in person and online. And I think in the Gulf region, we are just starting to hit our stride. I opened up the first pole and aerial studio in 2013 in Qatar. And since then, communities have flourished, and it's been an absolute privilege to see this development. And I truly can only hope that it'll continue to grow.
Oh, very cool. I think it's fantastic what you're doing, and really just taking all of your skill set, all of your expertise, and making it happen, and being really almost a pioneer is in a way in that region, because like you said, you opened the first pole studio
Mm-hmm.
in
Well, and
Qatar
area.
and aerial studio. Wow, that's amazing. And I can only imagine it's going to take off really well, because so many people around the world love that art form, love doing it
Mhm.
just simply for the fitness of it and what they can do and what their bodies and make their bodies do, but then also the ones that want to then advance and take it into maybe a professional career as well. That's fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
And it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am
Mhm.
going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Whether I can actually make a good income from performing to have a good standard of living.
Fair. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
You can only do the best that you can in this moment with what you have right now.
So true. And the third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Absolutely. Community development, bringing people together, creating a strong community, one with openness, lack of judgment, and constant supports. Really a family that you can count on.
Oh, so good. Community, networks, relationships. It is so vitally important in this industry. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is something that has come up a time and time again with different guests on this podcast. And that's what I love about this podcast and this platform, that we really truly are discovering the actual real fundamentals of what it takes to create and have a successful career in this industry. So many people go into the world, into this industry with a skill set, but no way how to navigate it, really. And we have to stumble and figure it out ourselves. Sure, we do that. But what a great resource that this has become. It's surprised me, honestly, that it's become this. And we're able to learn so much from people like you that have been there, done that, and are succeeding at it. So great that you brought that up. Thank you. What a great takeaway. Yeah. And the fourth question. What is your best resource? Whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast, or a piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now.
Instagram, 100%. It offers a way to communicate and reach so many people, as well as share learning and inspiration, and of course, the failures.
Because those exist.
Oh, yes. I've got some
Yes.
real gems on my account.
And the fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently, or would you keep it the same?
I would have gone to circus school, I think, at a much younger age and explored the opportunity to work more with the troupe. I've collaborated a lot, but I've been primarily independent in my career. And this works really well for me now. But in my younger days, it would have been nice to, I think, travel with a group of people.
For sure. Back to the community, back to the relationships and the networks, right?
Mhm.
There it is. And the last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Work smart and train hard. Create objectives, even if they're small. Check in with yourself. If you're unhappy and stressed, this is likely going to impact your image. Really take care of yourself. There are a lot of roads that lead to the same place, and sometimes it just takes a bit of creativity to find a new path and be an asset to your colleagues, company, and students. A good attitude really does go a long way.
So well said. Thank you. And to wrap up this interview, Mel, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
My Instagram handle is at acro.mel, and you can check me out at my website, www.acromel.ca, where all my workshops and the various courses that I teach are available. And feel free to always send me a message. I am sponsored by a few clothing companies, and that information is also available on my Instagram.
Brilliant. And for everyone listening out there, I have put the links to everything Mel just said into the description of this episode so you can easily connect with her. And be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, art and entertainment educators, and anyone aspiring to create a career in this industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful career in the entertainment industry. Case in point, take everything Mel just talked about today, all of that actionable insight, and that's just one episode. There are 149 episodes as of today that you can go look through, and every single one of them has something fantastic for you to take away from. So check it out. Make sure you subscribe. And if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe as well so you can listen to tomorrow's guest. Mel, thank you so much for being here today. It's been such a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the chance to share.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't miss an episode. I have a new guest 7 days a week. Every guest drops more value and insight than any other resource out there. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a rating and review. Also, be sure to head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.